Hello all. This video will be a basic guide to creating custom survivor outfits, or head hacks as they're also known. This tutorial will teach you how to give a survivor model new clothing and how to rig it, getting the materials set up, and actually using it in game. This tutorial will not go over more advanced stuff like jiggle bones, VGUI, complicated VMT stuff, custom facial expressions, and this guide won't teach you fucking anything. I don't know what to tell you. So first up, we got the prerequisites. Model making for Source requires quite a few programs to clog up your computer with, and namely the ones we're going to be using in this tutorial are Crowbar, GCF Escape, and VTF Edit. This guide will be using Blender, so you'll also need that, alongside Blender Source Tools / Source Ops, you can choose, and Measure Data Transfer. These two are like Blender add-ons, it doesn't matter. All these are free and the links for them are in the description. Once you've got them installed, let's go on to step 1, picking out your outfit. And by let's get into, I mean not that. This guide can't really help you with picking out your outfit. You can get new clothing models from anywhere, whether it be another game or some other workshop add-on, it doesn't really matter. However you require them, make sure you can import them into Blender and they're not too high poly. Now step 2 is getting the model for the survivor you want to edit. To do this, we'll be using GCF Escape. First though, you want to right click on Left 4 Dead 2 in your Steam library, go to Manage, then Browse Local Files. Copy the path to it and then open GCF Escape. Once it's open, click on File and then Open. Navigate to your Left 4 Dead 2 main directory from there, and then go to Update, and then scroll down and double click on pack01_dir.vpk. Once it's loaded, click on the little magnifying glass to search for your survivor model. The model names for them aren't the same as their in-game names, except Coach, so the list of them can be seen on the screen here. For this tutorial I'll be using Zoe, so I type in survivor_teen angst, make a folder somewhere on your PC, it doesn't matter where, and extract the VTX, MDL, and VVD for your survivor. You can extract the file as well, but I wouldn't recommend it. This is now where you will open Crowbar. Once it's open, first you set up Left 4 Dead 2 in the Setup Game section. Should be fairly self-explanatory, I hope, I don't know, I haven't done it in a while. Then click on Decompile and select the folder where you extracted your survivor model, and then set where you want to export them to. Again, doesn't matter. Once this is done, you should have a bunch of files, namely SMD files, a QC file, a VRD, and a VTA. If you don't have all these, then you may have missed something. This is where you now open Blender and Scripted Me temporarily ends. You poor souls, you have to deal with me now. So now that we've got Blender open, first off, this tutorial assumes you know at least the basics of using Blender, okay? How to move around, scale and stuff, enough that you could do something, but you don't need to be like a professional 3D modeler, because I don't know how to 3D model in the slightest, So step 1 is to actually import your survivor. So what you do, you go into File, Import, and then Source Engine. If you have Blender Source Tools, that will be there. If it's not, then you don't have Blender Source Tools, which means you didn't listen to me, which means you're very naughty. Once we're here, we click on the SMD that doesn't have LOD after it. In this case, it's Zoe Reference Wrinkle. The name's kind of different for each survivor. Some of them use the code name. Pretty sure all of them use the code name except... Yeah, everyone uses their code name except Zoe, because, I don't know, she's just different. Double click. And she is. Now, this is the point where you're going to want to import your clothing, which is what I'm going to do. So here I've got some clothing models set up. These were just random ones I've selected from GTA 5 that I've already exported. They look terrible together, I don't care. You'll notice I've already set up the materials for them, which by that I mean add in, new, and then name it whatever, Zoe Asrat. It doesn't matter. I've already named it. I've added the image texture to Blender. You don't have to do that, I've just done it to make it easier to see. I'm also going to add the texture to Zoe just to make things easier. And it's done. Now, the first order of business is to get the clothing to somewhat match the scale of the survivor. So in this case, I'm just going to select all of it, move it up to there, Object, Set Origin, 3D cursor and just scale it up. Try to make it match the shoulders, but it doesn't really matter. That looks close enough. Bring it forward a bit. That'll do. Now, you'll notice that the hands aren't exactly together. That's fine. We're gonna fix that. So, how do you fix this? Well, select the armature, object pose mode. And here you can move around the arms and whole body pose to match whatever clothing you want, which I'm gonna do now. This looks close enough. So now that we've got the pose, we click on Zoe, go on modifiers, then Shift D, the armature, and then Control A on the copied one. It's gonna make it look hella weird. That's normal. Click in the armature again, then object to pose mode, pose, apply pose as rest pose, and there you go. Now it's all good. The next step is to modify the proportions, because as you can tell, by this section in particular, it's not the same. Now you could go into edit mode and manually move it if you're insane, or sculpting, and then select elastic deform, which is somewhere. It is this. Now with this, let me just turn on textures, you can start moving things around to your liking. I personally crank up the radius to about 100 and then just start going at it. There will be a time lapse, I assume. That to me is probably good enough. The next step is to copy your survivor model, your base one before you've done anything to it except the pose. Click Shift D, got a copied version. Now with this copied version, for Zoe exclusively, I'm going to remove the holster, because the holster has jiggle bones attached to it. This doesn't apply to the other survivors. You can leave the holster there any day of the week. Then, you just want to hide this duplicated model and then move it into the scene collection so that it doesn't bother you anymore. Now the next step is to remove Zoe's original clothing, because, well, we don't really need it anymore, do we? Make sure you're not doing this on the duplicated model. What you can do, edit mode, and then click on this to have like a wireframe selection, then just select all the bits roughly that you want to remove, right? Then, want to go to UV editing, press this little double arrow action, you'll see some horrors, but then do Control L, and then, I'm just going to hide the clothing real quick. It'll select all the stuff of the clothing, and we just delete it. I'm going to go with the faces, and then we missed that apparently. And then we're missing everything. Turn on the clothing again, and then there you go. She's wearing it. It's amazing, isn't it? The power of technology. Watch out for stragglers, okay? They like to hold out here. Doing this, I've realized that the sleeves here are a bit too small, so I'm just gonna sculpt that until it fits the hand. Okay, great. Next step is the rigging. First off, make a new collection to house all of these in. I'm just gonna call it Zoe Clothes. You can call it whatever you want. To house your clothing models, that is. Why is this here? Next up is the rigging. Now normally you'd select the object, then the armature, Control P, automatic weights, and then manually weight paint it until it looks good. You can do that if you know how to. I don't know how to, and I'm lazy, which is why instead we're going to be using mesh data transfer. Select your clothing, add an armature modifier if it doesn't have one, select your survivor, skeleton, click on the little green triangle, then mesh data transfer. Now, you're going to see a lot of stuff here. Don't worry about it. Click on vertex groups, change that to world, and then select the duplicated model of your original survivor. Not this one where you removed all the clothing, the original that has all of it intact. And then all you have to do is click Transfer Mesh Data. And like that, it should be pretty much auto-rigged. I'm going to do that for the rest of the clothing. Okay, now that that's done, go into pose mode and test out your model. Yep, that's moving. Yep, that's also moving. It's moving how things probably should. Now, this isn't perfect, okay? It's copying the original's weighting, but it doesn't know what it's copying, okay? It doesn't know that this is a hoodie and that, you know, in this case, take a look at that. The ponytail is moving the hoodie. Why? Well, ponytail's close to the hoodie, so just copy the weighting from the ponytail. What's the issue? So you're going to have to do some manual weight painting, okay? Select the pose, select the thingy, weight paint, then, you know, remove the stuff you don't need. I'm also going to remove it from the neck, because we also don't need that. Make sure to check whether something like that happens, where a big chunk of it is left. Now, depending on which character you've picked, this could be going horribly. Okay, this whole mesh data transfer, it could look like absolute dog shit. Okay, Zoe is pretty good, but I think there's 3 different tiers of mesh data transferability. At the top, we got the ones where you can copy it and you don't have to worry about a thing. This will be your Rochelle, Coach, Ellis, and Zoe. Then you got the mid-tier, who's like, it's fine, it does the job, but it's not perfect. This will be Lewis and Francis. And then you've got the horror, which is Nick and Bill. Let me show you the issue with Bill in particular, because you can apply the fixes to that on any other. To show this off, I'm going to give these clothes to Bill here. So I'm just going to copy what I've been doing for Zoe, but with these. Give me a sec. Okay, now here I've mesh data transferred the weighting from this copied Bill to this new clothing. Let's test it out. Okay, arms look fine. Looks good to me. Yep, he's moving his legs. Let's try moving the spine bone. Oh, good lord, what is he doing? Now, what the issue here is how default Bill is weighted. As you can see, he's got this big old coat hanging out in front. And the weighting is very heavy on this first spine bone, right? It pretty much moves his entire upper half. Which works fine for his model, because that's how it's meant to work. It's perfect for him. But that becomes an issue when your model doesn't look like that. It's completely different. So then all your Bill animations will just look like, will have him doing like a big old pelvic thrust, which will look very weird. So how'd you fix this? You could manually do it by, you know, weight painting all of it until it looks good, but as you can tell, that goes against my religious beliefs, okay? My belief is that we have to do this as lazily as possible. So what do? Simple. Just don't use Bill, okay? We're not going to mesh data transfer from him. At least not all of him. A great feature of mesh data transfer is that you're not limited to just one model. You can mesh data transfer a specific vertex group / bone from one model, and then another from something else. So we're going to keep these arms from Bill, but we're going to add a spine from someone else. Now you can select whoever you want, but we're going to go for Ellis because he's probably the best for this. So I'm going to import Ellis, delete his armature because it doesn't matter, bring it here, scale him up a bit to be more Bill sized, and then the next step, go into the data again and then lock all the groups. Next you want to select the specific bones you want to copy from. So in this case we're going to probably do, we're going to uncheck pelvis, spine, and probably the 2 thigh bones, wherever those are. There's the right one. There's the left one. Okay, let's hide Alice real quick. Next, on your clothing model, click the little lock, and then select Alice here, or wherever. Then we're going to transfer the mesh data. Do the same thing for the top. Transfer mesh data. Now, the top half will be the exact same, okay? The arm weighting is equally how it was before, but now, spine 1 is less weird. It doesn't have him doing that weird thrust, and his legs work normal, because they just copied that of Alice. Well, they're not perfect, but they're better than before. And you can apply this to anything. I mean, you could mix and match. You could have the arms of Lewis, the spine of Francis, and the legs of Coach if you want. It doesn't matter. But typically I say keep the max amount of the default survivor and then just fix up whatever's left. So for Francis and Lewis's case, I say copy the arms from someone else, and then in Bill's case, you know, this general section, the spine, the pelvis and spine. And then for Nick, if you're doing a suit for Nick, then it's fine. You can copy Nick all day. If you're doing anything else, I wouldn't recommend using Nick for any of it. Just scale up someone else, Ellis, maybe Bill, or just anybody else. Back to Zoe. Now at this point, your model is actually done. I'm serious. You've rigged it. It's probably not perfect, but I mean it's better than you would have done otherwise, or at least I would have done. So, next step is to export. This is where we're going to use source ops, because Blender Source Tools is fucked. Okay, add a new game. Name it whatever. Point to Left 4 Dead 2 and the bin folder. It should automatically fill all these out. Next, click this. Click the plus button. Name. I go with decomped / then whatever it is. I'm called Tutorial Zoe. Doesn't matter. Armature. Select your armature. Reference. Select your new thingy. Zoe reference wrinkle, which is this bit. And then your clothing, which I've named Zoe Clothes. Click SMD for both of them. You're done. Then, navigate to your Left 4 Dead main directory. We're here. Click on Left 4 Dead 2. Then model source. And then you'll find whatever the folder name is for your thing. You've got Tutorial Zoe here. Now that we're here, you're gonna want to copy these two into where your decompiled model is. The next part involves QC editing. And my cat hopping on my lap. He's very cute. So, open up the .qc file of your decompiled model. There's not a lot you need to tinker with here. The first step, all of these LODs, just get rid of them. Okay, you don't need them. Up until here. So all that's left is this model bin. Everything else you don't need. Next up, you set up the body group. I'm going to copy it from something else because I don't remember how it looks like. Your body group line should look something like this, okay? Body group, whatever the name of the survivor is, it doesn't actually matter, but I like to do it like that. And studio, and then the SMD of whatever folder you made for the clothes, or like your new outfit. Next up is the CD materials. Add a new line, and then have the name of whatever thing you want. In this case, this doesn't have a name, so I don't know, I'm going to call it, I don't know, tutorial, I guess. And then add another \. Copy it again. Then type reskins. You don't have to do that, but there's no reason not to, so you may as well. And then after that, you can compile your model. So, go back to Crowbar, click on Compile, then the top bit here, Browse, select the QC you edited, and then click Compile. Make sure to set your output folder as well. Next, click on View, then Browse, and then select the compiled model. Not the one you decompiled, the new one in whatever folder you've set here. And then click View as Replacement. Now when you load in, you should see a lot of purple and black. This is because we haven't set up the textures yet. However, what you'll also notice is that it's your model. If you go down here, by default everything will look very shiny. Just click on normal mapping down here. Boom, she looks normal now. Then click on sequence and then select whatever animation you want to test it with. As you can see, yep, the model moves. Does it as intended. Yep, that's a Zoe, alright. You can dick around with whichever one you want just to test it, I guess. It doesn't matter. But as we can tell, it does in fact work. So, the next step is to actually set up the materials. Let's go do that. Navigate into your add-ons folder in Left 4 Dead 2, then create a new folder for your add-on. Inside this new folder for your add-on, you're gonna want to make a new folder called Materials, and then in there you're gonna want to do this, make the same folder path as your CD material here. So I'm gonna want to make Models, Survivors, Teen Angst. It says Lily here because I just copied it from one before. I'm gonna call it Tutorial. And then here, we're gonna set up the actual textures. This is where VTF edit comes in. What you're gonna want to do, you're gonna go click File, Import, and then import the texture for your model. Make sure you don't have clamp enabled here. Yep, those are shoes. Make sure in the options you have Auto Create VMT file. Then simply do Save As, and then save it into the same folder as your material path, and name it the same thing as you did in Blender. So in this case, it's Zoe Feet, because in here, in Blender, I named it Zoe you son of a bitch. As you can see, it's called Zoe Shoes, because in Blender, it's called Zoe Shoes. Open up the VMT and change this first line into Vertex Lit Generic. You can also import the normal map for your texture, which if you do, when saving it, you're gonna want to click. When saving it, you're gonna want to click this checkbox here, where it says normal map. And then in that case, when I edit the VMT for your regular texture, copy the line, call this one bump map, and then point to whatever your normal map texture is. I'm not gonna make one because I'm lazy, but you're meant to do that. Okay, great. Now that I've done that, you're pretty much good to go if you don't care about first-person arms. Because now the 3D world model is pretty much done. All you have to do is copy the models folder for that you compiled the model in, and then just copy-paste it into your add-on folder. In case you want to do it, crack out GCF Escape again, and then, depending on what character you've selected, you're gonna want to search for something else. If you're looking for one of the L32 survivors, you're gonna want to write in their code name. So say I want to do Ellis, I'm gonna write mechanic, and scroll down V-arms mechanic new. Gonna want to select those, extract them, do all that. If we're doing a Left 4 Dead 1 survivor, then use their actual name. So in this case, Zoe, V-arm Zoe. Just extract all that. Same thing as before, decompile it. And I'm just gonna get this out of the way now. I'm just gonna add the material lines to the VMT, to the QC, sorry. Then we're gonna want to import it, and then select the arms SMD. Make sure on this side where it says bone append, you do click make new armature. By default, it's append to target. I don't know why that has annoyed me so much in the past, but make new armature. This will load in the arms as a separate thing. Copy whatever thing you'll see on the arms, in this case the hoodie, and then move it into the collection that has the arms. Now we're going to hide regular Zoe, and then edit this model so it's just the sleeves. Next up, you want to match it so it's pretty close to the original, which I'm going to do right now. That looks close enough, it doesn't matter to me. Same as before, duplicate the arms, move them out the collection so that you don't compile with them, and then remove whatever clothing the regular arms have. And then, same as before, we delete all previous vertex groups just so they don't influence anything, and then copy it, then do the mesh data transfer from your copied first person arms. Transfer the mesh data, go on your armature, make sure you select the arms, then test it. Does it work? Yep, that's movement. Looks fine enough to me. And like with the clothes, export them. Make sure you select the arms. Copy them into your folder, and then compile that as well. Then all you have to do, copy the model into your add-on folder. Then the next step is to open another folder that navigates to Left 4 Dead 2/bin. Scroll down until you see vpk.exe. If you don't see it, you need to install the Left 4 Dead 2 authoring tools, and then just simply drag your folder onto vpk.exe. And then, pretty much you're done. You can now test out your thingy in-game. Let's go do that. Here we are, and as you can see, yep, that's our model. That's our model. It's got everything we selected. Looks normal to me. Now to test out the first person arms, open the console, sb_take control, and then the name of character. Here we are, and yep, those are first person arms. They look to be working. You won't be able to do this if you load through the menu. If you just go like map C8M2, whatever map name you want, then it'll work. But then yeah, that's pretty much it. That is how you make a quick old custom survivor outfit swap in a good half hour tops. Thanks for watching, assuming you did. If you didn't, how'd you get here if you didn't